Hello everyone, welcome back for another video. If there was a manual on how to survive your 20s, this would be it. I'm Hailey Gamba if you guys are new here, and a little bit about me. I've been doing YouTube pretty much all of my 20s, and I'm going to be 27 this year in July. And although I'm not finished with my 20s yet, I think I've completed plenty of years in my 20s to be able to give you guys this sound advice. I think that we all have to navigate life in our own unique way, but sometimes it's nice to hear from someone who has faced challenges, trials, and tribulations, a lot of wins, also some losses. And I've also worked on my self-actualization and coming into my own, finding out who I actually am and what I actually care about, my authenticity, and finding my confidence. And I think that when we are talking about surviving our 20s, a few things that I want to mention are self-care, organizations, relationships, life itself, career. These are all things that have to do with our 20s. I would look at our 20s as the building years, the years where we figure ourselves out, get our life together, and start something that eventually turns into something even bigger in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and on. Now, this video honestly could help out literally anyone of any age. I know I have a few ladies and gentlemen who watch my channel who are not in their 20s, but I specifically wanted to make this video for people in their 20s because if they don't figure this out now, it will be a little bit more of a challenge for them in the future. So I kind of want to give out like a little handbook, a little Hailey handbook, as you guys can call it, to how to maneuver through your 20s so that you can survive, but even more importantly, thrive. Now let's get into today's topic. I have a lot to touch on. Give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you guys like these types of videos from me. Now let's discuss the 10 ways to not only survive, but thrive in your 20s. Okay, number one, this is huge. For all of my ladies entering their 20s and you're still figuring yourself out, this is really going to help you. And number one is to embrace loneliness. Nobody really talks about how lonely and weird life feels when you enter true adulthood. I think that you don't actually prepare for how weird it actually feels when you graduate high school and you continue on with your life and you realize that you don't see your friends every day anymore. You don't see even random people that you're not friends with, but maybe acquaintances with every day anymore. And you genuinely have to make time for people the older you get. Now, I was really lucky in my early 20s because I had a boyfriend at the time. So I never felt like a huge extreme loss in having some sort of human connection. So I'll speak on how I felt after I had my breakup, which was when I was 24. I was someone who I would consider myself to have been very codependent on a person in my life. If I at least had one person that I could speak to every day, I was good. I didn't need a plethora of friends. I didn't need my family around me 24/7. I just needed one person. But I realized that not everybody has the luxury of having a partner from, high school till the day that they die. And I was one of those people. I had to realize that turning 24, experiencing a breakup, and not having access to human connection every day was huge for me. I think what's really beautiful about finding yourself is the scary aspect of it. I want you to welcome in that loneliness because if you don't, you're going to feel everything. And I'm talking everything. Your emotions are going to run high. You might even go through depression. You might become antisocial the older you get. You won't, go out by yourself. Like, you don't want to get anxiety and depression the older you get because you're in fear of what life is like being alone. I want you to start early. If you can, start taking yourself out on solo dates. Go shopping in stores you've never been. Go to towns you've never seen before and start immersing yourself in solo dolo lifing, okay? I find that I am the most happy and self-actualized now that I have embraced loneliness for the past 2 years, I would say. Realizing that nobody is going to rescue you is sometimes a very humbling experience, but it can also be quite beautiful because it is important that we rescue ourselves. And a huge part of that is finding ways to cope with your alone time, using it to your advantage. Become a homebody. If you're someone who likes to be home, but you just like to be surrounded with friends, it is time to find friendship within yourself. Engage in some hobbies and activities that make you feel good. And it's important that we do embrace loneliness at times. We're not always going to feel in our tip-top shape. And I think the strongest people in life and the happiest people in life are the ones who understand that not every day is going to be perfect, that not every week is going to be amazing, that not every month is going to be your winning month. And at times you're going to feel this and then you're going to feel this, and that is okay. So a huge part of your 20s is understanding that you're going to have a lot of activity maybe in the month of February, and then in the month month of March, you might have nothing going on. You will live a happier, more sound, incredible life when you start to enjoy your own company. Number 2, for surviving and thriving in your 20s is creating specific tiers for people in your life. I think that this is something that I had to implement in my 20s because I didn't understand the importance of boundaries when I was younger. If I liked you, I liked you. You knew everything about me. You knew what the inside of my vagina looked like. You knew what guy I dated. You knew what my inner thoughts were. And when you become an adult, you realize not everybody needs to know everything about you. And it's actually important that you give a select few people the true title of knowing you. And I think it's really nice to create tiers for people when it pertains to their access to you without them feeling like they don't have access to you. It's an art. So there's just going to be people who are in tier 1, which are like family and really close friends, people that you trust with your life and that are super loyal and have proved that. Then for tier 2, it could be like your work friends or people you go to school with. Anyone that you do genuinely like being around, but they don't need to necessarily know every in and out of your life. Then in tier 3, it could be acquaintances, people that you network with or possibly maybe go in business with or making connections through friends of friends. Like these are people that you're nice to. You say hi and bye to. Maybe you'll notice them out at the grocery store or you'll have a really amazing conversation with them at a dinner party and they're somebody that you can have in the future for reference, but they are still an acquaintance. They are not your bestie. They're not your family. That's tier 3. And then tier 4 is like your enemies, people that you genuinely just ignore. I think it's important that we acknowledge that there are people who don't like us, who aren't happy for us, whether it's family or friends, and they are just not going to get access to you anymore. You don't respond. You don't need to subliminally throw shade at them. You just move on and ignore it. You are not going to be liked by everyone. That is life. I think it's important that we acknowledge that rather than care so deeply about that. I don't like everyone. It is what it is. And I wouldn't want them to be plotting and planning against me because I don't like them. I think it's important that we give people the same grace that we give ourselves in this aspect and vice versa by just simply saying, you're just not somebody that I would deal with. I'm going to move on with my life and ignore it. Okay, number 3 for surviving and thriving in your 20s is to remove distractions. What I mean by this is, in your 20s, you can really make or break these years based off of distractions. I think that it's important that we identify what distractions we're benefiting from and what we're not benefiting from, because not all distractions are bad. For instance, some good distractions is like having a boyfriend, doing that weird hobby, maybe making a college mistake, trying a bunch of shit, going out with friends. That does build character and grit. I don't want you to move through life like you have to be perfect and do everything right, because I'm telling you, when you strive for perfectionism at a very young age, it makes you bitter and resentful the older you get. I want you to free flow through life in a way that allows you to have a healthy relationship with trying a bunch of things, figuring out who you are, but also removing distractions that you know will never benefit you in the future. I know for me, when I was building my YouTube channel in my early 20s, I knew that going out all the time and drinking, smoking pot in some random kid's garage, and hanging out with stupid people would get me nowhere. And I enjoyed those years. Maybe before I started my channel, I was kind of an asshole in high school. So I enjoyed those moments when I was young. So when I wanted to buckle down and get serious about building my business, I took a step back. I removed certain distractions. Now, certain distractions that I did have were, going out to dinner and having a boyfriend at the time. Those were things that I did have in my life that I don't regret and that I enjoyed because it built something in me. But there are certain things that really just don't build anything in you. You need to be discerning in what is actually helpful and what isn't. And sometimes it just takes trial and error, guys. Like, you're not going to be perfect and you're not going to always make the correct decision, but sometimes just kind of refocusing and pivoting back into place is important. So have those self-identifying audits throughout the year where you say, okay, how am I doing? Am I falling off? Am I not balancing things right? Am I forcing something that's not there? Like, figure out what it is that you can kind of fix, maybe remove a distraction here and there, and you will see your life just magnify. I promise you, the people that you see not doing well in life, people that are just totally behind, whether they're not making any money, not doing well, they're just not taking great care of themselves, they usually spend a lot of these years doing nothing. You'd be surprised how many people do nothing every single day for years. Just don't do nothing and you'll be more ahead than the majority. Okay, number 4 for thriving in your 20s is become your highest priority. This is something that I wish somebody had told me many, many years ago. So this is my way of like reteaching it to my younger self. Take exceptional care of yourself right now. I wish that I spent most of my 20s prioritizing my health, wellness, my looks, my self-care, the way that it should have been done. I think I was always a girly girl. I always liked the finer things in life. I always tried my best, but I could have done better. I was overweight majority of my 20s. I was unhappy with certain things that I was doing appearance-wise. I felt like my skin wasn't in the best condition. My self-care felt a little bit aesthetic-y and not genuine. And now as a 26, almost 27-year-old female who is able to reflect, I realize now, okay, you could have taken your diet a little bit more seriously. You could have worked out a little bit better. You could have done better with your skincare and body care, but hey, it's okay. It's never too late. But now that I get to enjoy these years feeling my sexiest and most confident self, I wish I did this earlier, but it's fine. So I'm telling all of my young 20s girls right now, this is your time to take yourself seriously. When I say you lose your looks the second you become an adult, I mean it. Like, you don't have that young, sexy, hot, fast metabolism anymore, most of you. Some of you still have it, but most of you, you're gonna lose it. You get a boyfriend, you get fat. You get a job and you're working a 9 to 5 and you're always eating pizza at the place next door to your job and you're just allowing things to just pile up and you're not thinking of yourself enough. You will one day just look in the mirror, not recognize yourself. That's exactly what happened to me. It was almost like an overnight thing. I was once like a young, hot 18-year-old girl, and then boom, I'm this obese, unhappy, not satisfied with my looks, 20-something-year-old. And I just didn't get it because I'm like, when did this happen? Because it does actually happen quickly. Don't let people tell you that it's vain or pretentious to take care of yourself. You will get better jobs, have better relationships with people, have a better relationship with yourself, more importantly, when you put yourself first. Because it's sometimes an external thing that you do first, but it helps the internal. It makes you more confident, it makes you happier, it makes you feel self-actualized and independent and ready to succeed. And it sometimes just takes doing things externally that make you feel things on the inside. So start doing it now. It's never too late. All of my ladies watching who are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, it's not too late for you either. But tell the girls in the comments right now that if you prioritized yourself in your early 20s, you would be in a different place. And I know for me, I probably would be in a different place too. I just recently started vlogging this year, and it's because I'm finally confident in my body and in the way I look, where I can place the camera down and do whatever I want, where for many years I was restricting myself and the content I could make based off of my own insecurities. Now that I've tackled them and have been able to truly shine in my own skin, it allows me to be more limitless. Okay, number 5 for thriving in your 20s is welcome the weirdness. Now, this is what I mean by welcoming weirdness. You are going to face very odd characters, people who will lie on you, steal from you, sneak diss you, shade you. It could be family, friends, people switching up on you. You can even be switching up on yourself at times. It is important to welcome this part of life into your life, because if you feel everything so deeply and you are super offended and it gets under your skin significantly, you're gonna have a harder time accepting life for what it really is. I know for me, for many years, I had rose-colored glasses on when it pertained to life. I didn't think that people could do half the things that they do to people. I didn't think that people were as terrible as they are. Now, granted, being that I am a child who has faced trauma and has survived abuse, I am aware that there are bad people out there, so I was never naive to that. I think what's interesting about life is you're gonna possibly see friends taking a few wrong turns, getting a boyfriend that's maybe a piece of shit, people just ending up doing drugs and alcohol too much, and having certain family members go through grieving issues and a process and not understanding or recognizing them as a person. People have their own stuff going on in their lives that make them who they are. You have to welcome that. And I'm not saying welcome it into your home and into your life, like absorb it, but what I mean by welcome it is understand it and keep it pushing. If you allow it to affect you significantly, you're gonna have a really hard time navigating your 20s because you put too high of expectations on people who do not have high expectations for themselves. It is important that we learn to pivot. Stop taking people's mistreatment for themselves, for you, for whatever, personally. It's never personal. It's not a personal attack on you. Now, what is personal is if you continue to allow it to happen in your life. But if you look at it and say, you know what it is, I got to keep it pushing, you will be better off. Number 6 for thriving in your 20s is learn balance. Now, what I mean by balance is boyfriends, friends, family, work life, hobbies, passions, working out. You want to learn how to balance it all. Now, this is something that takes time, but I think it's a really important tip for your 20s, because if you learn how to balance this while, let's just say, you're still single, child-free, you are going to have an easier time in motherhood, in being a wife, in just going through life and the challenges you face the older you get. When we learn balance young, we learn how to cope better, because sometimes when we don't know how to balance, we get anxiety, we get depressed, we get overwhelmed, we burn out, we end up quitting things too soon. And when you learn how to balance properly, you can handle life in a way better way, because you have implemented boundaries and standards for yourself. You give yourself timelines. You make sure that you allocate time for each thing in your life of importance, and it just allows you to function in an organized fashion. I used to never be organized. I thought I could never do working and family time and boyfriend time and friend time and all that in the same day, but now I realize I can, and there are certain days I can do certain things, and then there's certain days I gotta say no. You gotta learn how to say no sometimes. That's also the art of balance, is when you know you have an overpiled schedule, you have to say to yourself, not today. I can't do that today because I have my schedule full. And when you start creating those boundaries and standards for your own life, you will have an easier time moving through it. So I think that that really will help you, and balancing is a part of life. It's something that we have to learn how to do, and we as women are multifaceted and multi-talented, so I don't have any doubt that you guys can get it done. You guys just have to prioritize the idea of organizing that balance. Okay, number 7 for surviving and thriving in your 20s is to allow yourself the ability to change your mind. Your 20s is all about discovery and figuring out the nuances of life and breaking free of generational curses and implementing new values into your life and learning what you find acceptable and what you don't. And that is just a part of how you navigate becoming a woman and growing as an individual. And when you transform, you change. It's life. And in knowing that, we also change our minds. We can change our minds about career, about people, about men we date, about different things in our life. It could be anything. Our interests, our passions, those change. When we're growing up and we're still living under our parents' roof and we don't know ourselves yet, we are not living outside of the life that somebody created for us. So we don't know ourselves yet. It is important that we allow ourselves to change our mind. We don't need other people to orchestrate a version of us and create a version of ourselves that we have to, live up to when it's not who we are. Embrace the change, embrace changing your mind, and allow yourself to do it. I talk to so many girls all the time who will reach out to me and say, I don't love this anymore. I don't want to be with my man anymore. I don't know if I like my friend anymore. It's okay. Let it go then. If you feel unsure and unhappy in the current situation that you're in and you feel like it's never going to get better, it is time to change your mind, to pivot, to grow, to transform. It is okay. Don't allow people to tell you that you're fake because you changed. You're not fake. You are just growing. Who we once were, we are no longer. I know for me, I've changed a lot throughout the years. I'm still to my core pretty similar, but I've changed a lot throughout the years. What I once loved, I no longer do. What I once maybe didn't like, I like now. It happens. I think it's a beautiful thing to change our minds and allow that in your life. So if you're going to school right now and you decided semester that you don't love your major and you want to shift it, shift it. Don't let people make you feel bad about it. Why continue something that you don't like? I promise you, this type of advice would have saved me in my 20s. I always used to feel bad about wanting to stop something mid-try, but I think it's worse when you continue doing something that you don't like and then you regret it later. Just stop. Stop dating him, stop being her friend, stop doing that thing in school. Just do what it is that you feel you are called to do. And it might take some more times and more tries, but do it until you feel good in it. I know for me, I tried a million different things before I set my ass into one position. And I'm so grateful I did, because now I know what I don't like, and what I do like, I'm closer to. Okay, number 8 for thriving in your 20s is to stop trying to be someone else. Your shadow is telling on you, babe. Now let me explain. I think it's really beautiful when people want to change certain things about themselves. And I do think it's possible. I don't think that you can change who you are to the core, but you can change a lot of things about yourself, especially if you move through life, you educate yourself, you become wiser, you surround yourself with different people, you're working in different areas of life, you move out of state. There are so many different things that change us naturally. But when you are trying really hard to get away from your authentic self, it seems fake and forced and nobody's buying it. There are so many people that I can tune into and notice right away, just based off of my discernment, that they are a fake person, that this personality or whatever they're trying to portray is not real. And I don't even condemn them for it or have an issue, because I feel sorry that they feel like they can be that and that it's not found out about. Like, I can tell that it's not real, that it's just not clicking. It is important that we stay authentic. And granted, I do want to also say that maybe sometimes we are going to not be authentic because we don't know ourselves yet. So try on a couple different hats and see what genuinely sticks and fits. I have thought that I was so many different things for so many years, and the older I get, the more comfortable I am with being who I am. Part of me is really good at doing that, but then I also can't hide other things about myself that sometimes come out in videos, in life, and in general. And I'm just learning to embrace it, because if I try to hide it, it seems fake and forced. When you are becoming the most authentic version of yourself, you're gonna be happier. You're gonna attract people who adore you for who you really are. And you're gonna be closer to your fate and destiny. When we are trying so hard to fit in a mold that wasn't meant for us, and when we're trying to be someone we're not, we always get met with disaster and chaos because it wasn't meant for us. We're taking a journey that was a door closed and shut, but we broke it open. No, babe, you need to go where you belong, not where you think you want to belong, because I promise you, it will cause you to be in a place that you don't want to be in. So just be authentic, be yourself, and find your authenticity in the process. Number 9, for thriving and surviving your 20s, is singleness is not a sin. I wish that I was taught that being alone is beautiful, not to spill too much on my personal life or my family life, but I don't think my mother would mind me saying this. My mom has never been alone, literally ever. So she didn't really know how to raise me to genuinely understand how beautiful it is to be alone. And when I became single, I remember she said to me, I envy you, because I wish I got the chance to do that. Like, I wish I had the chance to figure myself out. So she definitely identifies and understands that what I'm living currently is actually a really beautiful and transformative thing. Like, she doesn't think it's odd or weird. She actually thinks it's quite nice. And I think a lot of people can share that sentiment that have never been alone. They wish that they spent more time working on themselves, growing into their passions, spending time doing things for just themselves just because. And as someone who has experienced love, loss, pain, heartbreak, I can tell you right now, I would love again in a heartbeat, but I'm also okay with experiencing heartache again. Do I want to? Am I praying for it? No, but I can deal with it. I've genuinely been able to do that. It's a mirror that you've been avoiding when you choose to not embrace something that was meant for you. Not everybody watching today's video is going to experience singlehood the way I have, because maybe some of you got married young, or you have a long-term boyfriend and you see it going to marriage and you're not going to be alone. But hey, the chances of you possibly becoming single sometime, someday, are pretty up there. So in knowing that, and that's not to scare you, just understand that embracing it is the best thing you can do. I'm not saying every day is gonna be, dandelions and butterflies and rainbows, but it's going to be something that you're gonna be pleasantly surprised you're going to enjoy. And you also notice how insecure and incapable a lot of people are in doing what you do, and it gives you that strength and resilience that you never thought you'd have. Like, I love meeting people who go, oh, I could never. And it's like, really? You couldn't? And it makes me actually feel powerful. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all. It actually makes me feel really powerful that somebody thinks that they could never do what I'm doing, because how I feel genuinely is happy and fulfilled. I also want to put out there that I don't want you to ever fear love. If anything, fear never having it. Experiencing love was one of the greatest things I've ever experienced, and I know I'm going to experience it again. And I am so grateful that I did. It taught me a lot about myself, and to love someone is the most beautiful, incredible feeling in the world. So although I love being single, I also love being in love. And I think it's beautiful to experiencing both, and what is meant for me will happen. And that's just life. So I just want you guys to embrace every single chapter and aspect of your life, even if it's not the most ideal situation for yourself. And number 10 for surviving and thriving in your 20s is sometimes what you're the most afraid of doing is the very thing that will set you free. Now, what I mean by this is my career scared me. My fear of being disliked scared me. My fear of meeting someone again scared me. My fear of being alone scared me. My fear of abandonment scared me. My fear of the unknown scared me. But guess what, guys? I experienced all of those things in my 20s. I experienced facing the unknown. I've experienced losing a person I cared about. I experienced being alone. I experienced meeting people again. I experienced being disliked and doing something that scared me in general. And guess what, guys? How all these fears ended up turning into my greatest blessings. I have found out the most about myself through the things I feared the most. I feared starting a YouTube channel and being disliked, and here I am doing it almost 9 years later, loving every moment of it. Imagine I never went through with it and didn't face my fear. I would be so much more remorseful and regretful. It's something that tests your resilience when you actually face your fears head on. And I have been getting better at it the older I get because I realize that every time I face my fear, I'm okay. I'm fine. It's over. The Band-Aid was ripped off and life just keeps getting better. My fear of being alone made me face singleness and embrace it. And I just think that there's so many things that we fear and we're scared of, but actually help us in our journey. So embrace it. And like I said, sometimes what you're most afraid of doing is what you need to do. It's the thing that will set you free from your mind, your anxieties, your pain, your struggle, your traumas, your self-doubt. And when you actually face it is when your life starts to get better. So in your 20s is the perfect time to start because I find that we are the most daredevilish when we're young. I really hope today's video did you guys well. I think that I have a lot of insight on today's topic, but hey, maybe when I turn 30, I will do a follow-up of all the things I wish I knew in my 20s. But this right now has really even just been cathartic for me saying these things back and affirming my own stance on a lot of this. I hope it helps somebody today. And even if you're not in your 20s, I hope that this helped you as well. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone. Mwah.